Welcome to 4-Inch Cats. I'm Morgana Creeley, and today I'm running a little mini workshop on strumming patterns. So, strumming patterns, something we don't necessarily think a lot about when we're learning to play the uke, and especially if we're singing along. Generally, we're concentrating on chord changes, we're concentrating on hitting the right notes with our voices, we're concentrating on our timing, but we're not necessarily concentrating on our strumming. So today, this is what we're looking at. Strumming. Really important strumming patterns. Because really, your strumming pattern is going to have a big effect on your rhythm, and your strumming pattern can make or break whatever it is that you're playing. So when we first start to play the uke, the first strumming pattern we generally get is just all downstrokes. And that's definitely a most excellent place to start, because already we're thinking about our timing and we're thinking about our rhythms. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once we get that under our belts, we then generally try to add the upstrokes on the half beats, and this will give us 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now, if you're going to be playing along at home, I should have mentioned I'm on my baritone, and the two chords I'm going to be playing are basically a G, or sometimes I drop into a G5 because I just play it so much I forget to play the G, but it's free. You can substitute the G5 and a D. So we're just alternating G's and D's. So for a lot of people, once they get into the up and down, that's pretty much where they stay. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, especially if you're adding singing or if you're playing with other instruments and there's more variety and other things going on. But if you want to add more variety to your own strumming, this is where this workshop comes in. So the first thing I want to do with the pattern up and down and up and down is to start taking away beats. So we're doing 4 beats to the bar, which is going to give us 4 down and 4 up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But I'm going to take away 2 of the up beats, and that will give me 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm not stroking up, I'm not strumming up on the 3 and or the 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So when we put that to our chord changes, we get. Already we've added so much more variety just by taking away 2 of those up strokes. Now I did something a little different there. I took away 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I didn't add the downstroke on the 4. Now this is something I like to do, especially if I'm playing more than one bar on the same chord. So for example, if we're doing 2 bars of G and then 2 bars of D, we might have 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So just by starting to look at where are you strumming in relation to beats in the bar, and then starting to take away and maybe add later some extra up or down strokes, we're starting to get a lot more variety in the strumming patterns that we're playing. Now you may think it's starting to sound a little bit more monotonous because we're just playing with the 2 chords, but hang in there, because as you get more patterns under your fingers and you start to not have to really think about what you're doing, then you can add a longer chord progression. So for example, if I'm playing G, D, E minor, C, back to G, D, G. So now you can see when you have a longer chord progression, then you're really starting to get into more of a rhythm with the strumming patterns, and it's really adding some really, really lovely texture to what you're playing. Now when I'm thinking about what chord strumming patterns I'm going to be using, I definitely take into consideration how fast is this song, because if I'm playing a nice slow ballad, for example, that's going to sound completely different than if I'm doing it a lot faster. So you might find some of the strumming patterns you personally think sound better faster, and some of them sound slower or played slower, which is great because there's certainly lots and lots and lots you can do. Now another really nice strumming pattern is to take away yet another note, so we're really only playing 2 full beats of the bar, 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, which is a bit hard to count, so I'll slow that down a little bit. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now again, you might think, yeah, okay, Morgana, I like the other one better. That's completely fine. None of this is set in stone, and you can certainly play around again with mixing up your strumming patterns. So if we go back to the 1 and 2 and 3, 4, you then might want to mix that with the 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And that would give us, if I can count this right for a Sunday morning, So all of a sudden we've just gone from, well, maybe not all of a sudden, to, it's a completely different feel, it's a completely different sound, even though we're still playing exactly the same chords. So now that we're looking at 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, we can actually flip that around and play it with the longer beats at the beginning of the bar and the shorter beats at the end. And I mean it by this. So we go 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2. Now you might be thinking, well, why does it make any difference if I put the long beats at the beginning or if I put the long beats at the end? It's a continuous musical thing. What does it make any difference? Which is a really, really good question. And it's actually quite a subtle difference. Where you put the chord changes is going to make a difference to the strumming pattern that you're using. So if we go back to 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so when we're playing that pattern, we've got the chord change with the 2 longer beats. Then if we switch over to the pattern with the longer beats at the end, switching back, subtle difference, but it does make a difference where you put your chord changes when you're doing a strumming pattern. So we're looking at strumming patterns. 4 beats of the bar, we're changing the chord every 2 bars at the moment, or maybe even 1 bar, which is great. But then what do you do when suddenly you're confronted with a piece of music and hang on a minute, it's like bar 1, that's 1 chord, and bar 2, that's 1 chord, that's great. But bar 3, there's 2 chords. Which strumming pattern do I use? And you know, suddenly you're confronted with something that's a bit different. So let's break this down. Now, if we're just doing our 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it doesn't really matter where we do the chord changes, because it's the same pattern over and over for everything. It's when we start putting in the variation that you need to think, am I happy with just playing the same chord pattern all the way through, or do I want to mix it up a little bit? So again, I'm going to run through these chords that I just happen to really like today, which is G or G5, D, E minor, C, because I want to show you more of a pattern. So before we were just going 1 bar with a chord, 1 chord to a bar. But if I say my first bar is G, my second bar is D, but I've got E minor and C in the same bar, let's have a look at one of them. Let's say we're trying 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Did that work? Let's try it again. to me, it feels like the chord progression is a little muddy because of the strumming pattern that we're using. So I might say, okay, I'm going to stick with this pattern except for the bar that I'm changing chords. So for the bar I'm changing chords, I'm just going to do a straight up and down. Let's see how we go. Oops, it's too early. Okay, I got a little bit muddled there in the middle, but you can see how I'm adapting. To me personally, is less muddy than now. You might completely disagree, and that's fine, because like everything else with music, it's a very personal choice. But at least consider some of the patterns that you're doing. Now, if we take the pattern 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 another fabulous pattern that sounds great with one chord to a bar. But again, if we're going to be changing chords in the middle of the bar, it may work or it may not work. This whole thing is off the top of my head. I'm just making it up as I go along deliberately, because a lot of the time when we're figuring out strumming patterns, that's what we're doing. We're trying it to see what works. So let's try that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and again. I don't know. I'm not convinced. Let me try this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Or maybe I could just try, if I'm just doing one strum on the E minor, maybe I'll just do one strum on the C. So you get the general idea. Just because you're starting out with a strumming pattern does not mean you have to keep that pattern all the way through. But when you're first learning a strumming pattern, I think it is a good idea just to practice that one pattern. Don't try to mix it up immediately. So, in our little workshop today, we started off with our very basic all down strokes to up and down, which I think we all know. Then we looked at starting to take away some of the beats. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Oh, that works with the change. Then we looked at just playing on our 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And in fact, if you mute it, that sounds quite nice. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Then we looked at putting more emphasis on the first beat, having a bit of a break. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and What I haven't looked at is the Hawaiian strum or the boomchuck or any of the other things that I know lots and lots of people are already playing, and there are certainly some excellent videos out there on that. So before we finish up, I just want to throw in a little bit of fingerstyle. Dun dun dun. Anyone who's followed me for any length of time knows that I love some good fingerstyle, finger picking. And you can definitely mix your finger picking with your strumming if you think really carefully about your strumming patterns. So for example, if I'm doing 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, I'm going to want to mix in a fingerstyle pattern that is the same rhythm as this strumming. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Now all I'm doing is playing the strings 4, 2, 3, 1, but I'm putting a bit of a swing feel to it so that it works with the strumming pattern. So there you have it, my mini introduction strumming patterns workshop Sunday morning. Thank you so much to everyone for all the very kind birthday wishes yesterday. It really meant a lot. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for everyone who shared my album, who streamed my album, who bought my album, who listened to my music, because that's what it was all about for me. When I posted yesterday, please go and listen to my music for my birthday, it's not about getting my analytics up, and it's not about selling records. Yes, both help, but really what I wanted to do for my birthday is just share my music, and this is why I'm here this morning. So thank you so much for everyone that came along. Thank you so much for your thumbs up and your kind words. I hope you're all going to have a lovely Saturday evening or a Sunday morning, wherever in the world you are. Stay safe and take care. And thank you. Happy uking.